And hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Super Bowl podcast, episode number 18. We are finally back in the studio after pre-recording 6 episodes just last April. We brought them all out throughout the summer. They all were all amazing. It was a great success to get those episodes out to you guys. So thanks to all those guests for allowing us to roll them out throughout the summer. So we're back, episode 18. We're going to start churning these things out every 2 weeks. We're going to bring you current sports news. That's going to be exciting. And we're going to continue to bring you the word straight from the word and straight from whatever God puts on our heart at each episode. Once again, David Arnold, Harper Houck, back with me, Braden Dorman. You boys ready to get back into this?
So ready.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Amped.
Well, first, let's kind of give people an understanding of our summer really quick before we get into things. How'd this summer go? Excited to be back at GCU. What's one thing you learned this summer?
Yeah, so for me, a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but through it all, really the main thing I learned this summer, God's good through it all. You know, the seasons change and things change, but God stays the same. It's amazing. It's amazing how life can just change. Circumstances can change. Everything can change. But God's still faithful. And I have a verse right here, Hebrews 13:8. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so throughout this school year, throughout our, this podcast and all these episodes, God never changes. And so we can hold on to that hope. And that's what, I really learned this summer with different circumstances and different big events going on, and come back stronger than ever and feeling good.
Yeah, we got an exciting guest coming on in episode 19, and then episode 20 we're getting into David's testimony, and that's going to be those are going to be both be must watch, but especially episode 20. Make sure you guys check that out. That's going to be coming here in the next month. Harper, what about you? How was your summer, man?
So I think it was a little bittersweet.
Yeah.
There's definitely so many blessings to count, and I mean every day, just waking up, being able to breathe, have breath in our lungs, that's a blessing, right? But this summer, I think I had a big mindset shift. My trust in the Lord's will grew a lot this summer. There was a lot of uncomfortable periods and times during the summer, and instead of questioning why those things were happening, I started to trust God, trust His will, and understand that He uses those periods to give us much needed perspective, clarity, experience, wisdom that we may have not gotten if things were going well. And
Sure.
So I've really grown in that area and still growing in that area. I mean, sanctification, the Spirit is living inside of us, is renewing us every day. And, I mean, that's every day while we're here on this earth. That will never end. And so that's good news to cling on to.
Absolutely. I think for viewers, just expect that to be a common theme for us to talk about. I mean, we're all seniors, so this can be kind of our last year of college here. Hopefully the podcast survives longer than that. It's going to be up to God in that aspect. But yeah, that's going to be a big thing we talk about, just trusting that God's got a plan, because there's going to be a lot of stress that should come along, and hopefully we're just going to continue to cling on to the fact that the Lord's will be done. So as far as my summer, thanks for asking, guys. I'm just kidding.
Dorman, how was your summer?
Oh, thanks,
Yeah,
man.
how'd it go?
I was here. Wasn't with these boys. I was living with my man Carson behind the camera here, and I think speaking for both of us, it was a good summer. It was pretty restful and a lot of fun times. And there were also some times where I felt, alone at times. Like the community here at GCU is just so evident, and we're just consistently around others.
Amen.
And that's something I crave. And I think that's one thing I learned, is I especially crave community. And I think it's a good thing. But I also came to understand that I need to crave also that alone time with the Lord. And so the one thing I learned the most this summer, I would say, is to lean on the Lord in more ways than I ever have before, especially in that alone time, and allowing Him to get me through different things I may have had to get through when I don't have people to go to, maybe in some certain instances. So
Sure.
The Lord was faithful this summer. He provided a lot of growth, and He got me ready for this, man. So I'm just feeling refueled, re-energized, excited to get back into this thing with you guys. So it's going to be good. And we'll get into some future things coming for the pod here soon. But first, we're getting into some sports because, as I said, we get to talk sports, and like current sports. Like we're not talking some random trivia. Like we get to talk about college football and the NFL today because that is happening right now, and that's one of our favorite sports, especially to watch together.
No doubt.
So let's start with college football. Let's get crazy right off the bat. We're 2 weeks into college football when people are watching this, about to start week 3. Maybe after like week 0, I get week 0, 1, and 2.
Sure.
Week 3 coming up. Let's go college football playoff predictions, the final year of 4-team playoff. Thank goodness, man. I can't wait to expand the playoff. David, who's your 4?
All right. Starting with me, I see.
Yeah.
And it's probably a good note.
Kick it off.
Okay. So here's my 4. Y'all ready? We'll see. We'll find out. So I got the seeds and everything. I'm going to start at number 1 with not really a big surprise. I'm going with Georgia Bulldogs. How can they not be in there? You know, people doubted them the last year of, the team, it's hard to win back-to-back titles. It's hard to get there. They did. And so this year there's no Stetson. What are they going to do? I think they're going to get there, and I think they're going to go undefeated and get to the playoff, and then we'll talk. But undefeated for Georgia, regular season. I got Michigan at 2. I think Michigan goes out of the Big Ten and gets the job done. Don't know exactly what their record looks like, but they're going to get in. They're going to find a way.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where we get a little different, folks. Number 3, USC. If you guys didn't know, last year I was quite high on this organization. And
last year?
College.
Still.
Oh, yeah. And still this year, right? Nothing's changed because Caleb Williams is still at the helm. And I'm excited to watch him. We'll get into more of USC later. But USC, number 3, they make it out of the Pac-12. And finally, a Pac-12 team makes it before the devastation of the Pac-12, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. But And number 4, out of the ACC, the Florida State Seminoles, who kind of are my team growing up, so a little bit biased, but I think Jordan Travis and that team is ready to get it done. And so Florida State rounds out the playoffs, and I guess we'll go ahead and get into my national championship already in week 2. If this hits, this will be awesome. But Georgia versus Florida State, that is a crazy game for my family. But I'm going to pick Georgia over Florida State just because of the experience. Coaching-wise, I think we'll get them over the top. So Georgia to the Natty. And Michigan versus USC. The USC Trojans are going to the national championship. And not only are going, but they are winning the national championship. Here I am. I'm saying it. Caleb Williams gets another Heisman. And we can go on and on, but I think he has the potential to be the greatest quarterback we've ever seen on any level in any organization of football. I'm so high on him.
Can we unpack that a little bit more? Because Dorman and I have heard a little bit more than what you just told the viewers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure. So I think physically the guy is gifted more than any quarterback I have ever seen. and I'm willing to say it. You compare him to Patrick Mahomes, we'll see what it looks like when he gets to the NFL. But I think he's better. He will be better than Patrick Mahomes. And it's crazy. And this could burn up in flames, and you'd be like, David, what were you thinking? That can happen, and I've heard that before, trust me. But I think the only thing that can stop Caleb Williams, and I've said this to you guys before, is Caleb Williams. Because I think mentally there's a lot of room for him to improve. And, there is, stepping up a league is huge deal, especially the National Football League from college.
No
doubt. I think mentally there's some work to be had, and that's true for everybody. But I think if he can humble himself and go in and just learn, soak it up his rookie season, and first of all enjoy this season at USC, hopefully winning a natty. I'll be pulling for you, Caleb, if you're watching. But just enjoy this season. Get after it, and then get ready to work in the NFL, not, get complacent. I think he's got the potential to not only be the best quarterback of the draft, but potentially the greatest quarterback we've ever seen grace a football field. So,
and you're saying that without him playing one NFL snap?
That is correct. I think he has the potential. Now, does anybody agree with me? Probably not. But I'll ride on that train, if you will, maybe off a cliff, maybe right down the good old tracks into the Lombardi Trophy, but we'll see.
There's plenty of folks that are just as crazy as you out there.
Yeah.
So
I think I got a couple sitting next to me, so we'll see.
Yeah. I think that was a pretty. I feel like you took the easy way out on it. Like, I know you thought that was a pretty crazy prediction, but I think it's gonna get crazier. I just want you to know
What
that
are you talking
right
about?
now.
His top 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, maybe so.
Yeah.
Maybe so. But I did.
I
have
think
these
you and I are
before.
going to show some different teams here.
Yeah, we are. I will say that right now. We are.
We are.
That's good.
And
That's good.
also, your Caleb Williams thing is great. I hope it works out for you, man.
I do too. I'm pulling for you, Caleb, like I said, and we'll see. I hope. Yeah, I hope he's not in the AFC East because that would be, unless he's for the Fins, which would get a little awkward. We'll talk about it later. But
Okay.
yeah, let's go.
That would be awkward.
Yeah, I mean, Tua's our guy. Lord willing, he'll stay healthy, and we'll get into that later as well. But
Yeah,
I'll leave
we
it
ought
at
to get
that.
into that
I'll leave
later.
it at that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So if you guys learn anything, we're gonna get into it later.
Yeah.
Harper?
Oh, trust me.
All right. So before I get into my 4, I want to say a couple things. When we had talked about this in our preparation for the video, I was a little hesitant about doing these because not only are we really early in the college football season, but I have a lot at stake here, emotionally and spiritually and back home. Last year, Tennessee had one of the best years we've had in a while, and there's a little ray of hope, and that got crushed by the Gamecocks. And so I just don't want to do anything to jeopardize that, and I know there's nothing I can do or say to influence the outcomes of these games, but I'm still superstitious at heart, and so I'll leave it at that. Okay, and one more quick thing. I have no Big 12 or Pac-12 teams in my top 4. Big 12. Big 12. I think every year is just a toss-up. I think even the teams that are on the bottom of the conference always play super tough at home. And then Pac-12, I'll give Dorman, I'll give your conference some credit. This is the best Pac-12 football conference we've seen maybe
In a while.
In a while.
Oh yeah.
College football
Definitely
era.
last decade, I would
Playoff
say.
era, probably, yeah.
I mean, what, you guys got 8 teams in the top 25 right
8
now?
teams in the top 25, which
Yeah.
is why it's a dicey game
That's what
to
I'm
play
saying.
there.
Yeah.
That's why I believe there will be none in the playoffs.
They're all going to beat
Because
each other up.
They're
beat each
gonna,
other up.
Yeah, they're going to pack.
And they're already known
yeah.
for beating each other up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And now they're all high-ranked teams. That's going to create more excitement, more buzz for those college game day games. So,
Okay.
Yep, no Big 12, no Pac-12 teams. Now, I'm going to say my 4 teams, not in any particular order.
Come on, man.
Bro, you're beating around the bush.
Actually, just hit him then.
Huh?
Let's hear him then.
I'm gonna say them. Okay, Georgia Bulldogs. Even though I don't like the Bulldogs at all, you guys know this. Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs, they're the best program in college football right now, and I don't really think that's a debate. Number 2, FSU.
Hey,
And I am-
let's go.
David knows I don't like FSU either.
He doesn't like any of them.
They
But
looked good against LSU, man.
Huh?
They looked good.
They did.
They are looking good.
Yeah. Yep.
but Jordan Travis, right?
Jordan Travis.
That guy is an absolute stud, and he might be a dark horse to win the Heisman here.
He
So
is.
I think he's a favorite right now.
he's the favorite.
A favorite, yeah.
I thought Caleb Williams was the favorite.
A favorite.
Oh, he
A favorite.
he will
Okay.
be.
But and also I think FSU has a really favorable schedule. I think the ACC is theirs to lose at this point.
Agreed.
Next up, I don't think you guys would see this one coming. I'm going Penn State
Whoa.
out of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I think Ohio State doesn't look that good this year, and I don't think Michigan is going to do it again. Michigan has to go to Penn State. I think in one of the later weeks of the season, I think Penn State wins that game. I think they run the table and they get into the playoffs.
Okay.
And then to round out my 4, I mean, you know what I'm putting here. I'm going my Vols, baby. You knew I had to do it.
Come on.
Come on.
There you go.
Last year, Josh Heupel, he showed the nation what he can do with that offense. I think Joe Milton's still got a couple things to work on, but when this offense gets firing, the rest of the nation's in trouble. Okay,
All right.
Tell you that.
Okay.
The Joe Show. Here we go.
Love it.
That
And
rhymes.
you're not going to pick those games right now. Those are your
No.
Yeah.
I think they're just way too early for me to even think of that right now.
It is too early, but that's why we love it.
Yeah.
But,
That's
all right. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Florida State, Georgia, agree with both those. Tennessee, I kind of figured would be a shoe-in because what else is he gonna say?
I mean,
Alabama,
I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, hey, Tennessee, we'll see, right?
Yeah.
I still can't take them seriously. As you said last year with the whole Gamecocks ordeal, that was, you know, I hated that, and obviously like with Jalen Hyatt last year with Hendon Hooker, Tillman. So they lost a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'll be pulling for Tennessee because I have people I know on the Vols. So, I mean, it'd be a cool story if they did get in, and I think that would – I like new names getting in, and that's why I'm excited for the 12 team. But, yeah, I don't hate Tennessee, but I would have them probably in my 6-7 range, kind of like last year. I think, you know, Georgia's going to be a tough one. Even though it's in Neyland, it'll be a tough one.
Yeah.
And then for Penn State, I think really there's only 3 teams in the Big Ten. You know, you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, and you got Penn State. I think Penn State can hang, and I think they can get it done. So I think, you know, most people's playoffs, you're going to pick one of them. I pick Michigan. He picked Penn State, so I don't hate that.
Yep.
And we'll see who I pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to go right now. I'm going to go with my 4. I'm going to start at 4.
Okay.
And
I'm wondering if
we'll see who I end up
an
with.
unsaid team. Gonna be
oh boy.
At number 4, we talked about the Pac-12. I'm right here. I'm going with USC at number 4.
Okay.
Number 4.
All right.
Number 4. I agree that the Pac-12 tends to beat themselves up. I think every team that gets wins in the Pac-12 is going to be able to build a really, really good resume this year. And I think it's not going to be comparable to the SEC because the winner of the SEC is going to be in at the end. That just happens.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to have one of the better resumes, and whoever can come out of that with one loss or undefeated out of the and this prediction, having them in the 4th seed, I think they lose one game along the line, and then they win the Pac-12. And it's between a couple teams. I think UW is going to be right there. I think
Oregon,
can't count on
Utah.
Oregon.
Yeah, I think Oregon State is even UCLA.
Dark horse.
Yeah, Oregon State, Oregon. I think Colorado. We never know. We never know with Colorado.
I was wondering if you're going to go Colorado.
Yeah,
if you're going to be brave enough to go Colorado.
I think they'll probably end up losing 3 or 4 games just because of how good the Pac-12 is. So there's going to be some incredible games to watch in the Pac-12 and Pac-12 after dark. Come on. Fire me up. Let's go. But I'm going to go USC at 4. Number 3, I'm going with the Texas Longhorns.
All right.
Texas looked extremely good at Alabama, winning by 2 touchdowns. They just impressed me. Quinn Ewers looked awesome. He's another Heisman favorite now, like early season, along with Jordan Travis, along with Caleb Williams. Their defense stifled Alabama. I noticed neither of you had Alabama in your rankings. I mean, if they went out, they're still going to get in.
Yeah,
but I don't think they have that in them this year.
No.
So
they got to play the Vols.
Right. They do.
They got to play the Vols.
They do. And I'll get into that here in a second. Or will I?
No, you ain't.
So Texas at the 3, and I think that's just – I think even if they lose one along the way and they win the Big 12, I think they're in with their – I think they're going to have the best non-conference win in football. So I think that's why they'll have the resume to get in as well. Number 2, I'm going to go with the team out of the SEC. You can probably guess who it is. Psych, it's the Tennessee Volunteers at number 2. That's right, folks. Tennessee is going to be a 1-loss SEC champ. They're going to lose to Alabama, but they're going to beat Georgia in their house. Then it's going to be a rematch between Alabama and Tennessee in the SEC championship. Georgia's going to have their 1 loss, but it's not going to matter. They're going to have the loss to Tennessee. They're not even going to be able to play in the SEC championship. The Georgia's going to be at 5. They're going to be 1 loss. They're not going to get in. Tennessee's going to avenge their loss to Alabama. They're going to win the SEC championship and hop up to the number 2 spot. And I'm going to roll with that.
Wow.
Happy with that.
Number 1 leaves Florida State. Florida State, I believe, will be the only undefeated team in football and in college football.
In all college football.
Yeah, and you talked about their schedule.
Yep.
I think they're going to roll Clemson at Clemson here in a couple of weeks. I think that's their only test. And as long as they don't trip up somewhere, I think they have a really good shot to go undefeated. They have also one of the top non-conference wins over LSU. They don't play North Carolina on their schedule, and they may play them in the ACC championship.
The road's easy. Yeah.
Well, and we say easy. There's Duke, who we don't know, right? I mean, we'll see. Yeah. But, and then Miami, always they play tough. Miami plays tough.
But they play Miami at home.
Yeah, but they did
So,
get an
thankfully.
impressive win over Texas Tech or Texas A&M.
Yep.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see if that ends up being anything. But
Yep.
yeah, I think Florida State is legit as well. Not just because
Yeah.
their conference isn't. So
So Florida State,
is
Tennessee,
that all
Texas,
three of us with Florida
and
State?
USC.
Yeah, all three of us for Florida State. I just want to say something real quick. Dorman, I could have tears of joy right now. I'm so thankful that
Yep.
I mean, usually dogging on Tennessee, and so
Me?
yeah,
Since when?
since ever. But
Man, you might be mixing me up with it,
but,
like a different brand or something.
both the UTs.
Like, actually.
Obviously, I'm ecstatic about you saying the Volunteers.
I've been on the
number
Tennessee train, man. I'm kind of mad that you're calling me out for this right now.
2. Okay.
On air.
On air.
Like, actually, I'm being dead serious right now.
Okay, well,
I
we're gonna
was
hash it
rooting-
out right
I
now.
wanted Tennessee to make the playoff last year. Like, I hope.
He
I
did.
think you know that, right?
Okay. I thought at one point that shifted.
No, it never shifted. I wanted them to make
He
the
never
playoff.
wavered.
I wanted
Okay.
them, I wanted them to win it all, to be honest with you.
And then the Gamecocks happened.
Yeah, that sucks.
They sure did.
Yep. And then the season went. But
Yeah.
so I'm very happy to hear all
Yeah.
those things about Tennessee, obviously. And then the other UT, I think I kind of got a bone to pick with you. So the Big 12, I feel like Texas has had so many big wins last couple years,
Yep.
and they can't go the distance the entire season.
I agree.
And so I'm just shaky on Texas.
Understandable.
I'm just shaking. I don't believe in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, and I just don't believe in the cookie cutter playoff. I just don't think it should be that predictable at this point. So
No,
I had to take a couple
No, yeah.
chances.
For sure.
And I think they either end up undefeated or they do lose to somebody. I think they beat Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, and so either they trip up against a team they shouldn't, like they usually do, but they still have that to fall
cushion,
back
yeah.
on. The
Right.
Oklahoma win, the Alabama win, and you
Sure.
still win the Big 12.
Sure.
I think it's going to be good enough. Georgia will be in the conversation because I really don't see them losing more than one game, really. But in my opinion, if you don't win the SEC championship, you shouldn't be in this playoff. And we talked about this before we went on. I think this, it really sucks that there's not a 12-team playoff this year. There are so many
Oh, I
teams that
know.
we just went around, and there was others
Yeah.
that we didn't even get to mention
Yeah.
that, it could have been an incredible 12-team playoff this
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Think about the Pac-12 teams that we've been mentioning.
Yeah.
That only one, if that, is going to get in the playoff.
Right.
With 12, and I hate that this is it for the Pac-12 as well.
I know.
So
It's too bad.
that's why I got USC going out on top and ending the Pac-12 in style.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, and for Texas, I would say, I would pump the brakes on, and even on Florida State and Texas, because realistically,
football to play.
yeah, exactly. And how good do we think LSU and Alabama are this year? Do we think?
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
I could see both losing 3 or 4 games this year, actually, and maybe that's crazy, but I think Florida State, the schedule obviously, and Texas, really both of them got their big game out of the way early, and so have that leeway and that win to back up on. But how critical will that win be if Alabama is a 20th ranked team or something crazy, or
Sure.
LSU's 15, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's why we're predicting early, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
And who knows? I'm starting to kind of think again about this Texas thing because this is their last year in the Big 12.
Yep.
Them in Oklahoma. This could be their last surge before they they beat up by the big dogs in the SEC. But
The real UT?
Okay, yeah.
the real UT. I will go to the grave saying Tennessee is the real UT. Anyone can fight me on that.
Well, hey, we'll find out here in my playoff. Tennessee, Texas, the 2 and 3 seed. To go
Oh,
to the
I
national
love
championship.
right.
that.
So-
I love that.
But last year, Clemson and Tennessee played in the Orange Bowl, so I don't know. The delivery might not be as good but whatever. So
Anyways, that's our college football talk. We rambled
Anyways.
a little bit. Let's get into the NFL. We are through week 1. My Seattle Seahawks got trampled by the Rams. So it was a really good start to the season for me. This man's Saints won in a real thriller over the Titans.
a bunch of
And
field goals.
This man's team won in an actual thriller over the
Yep.
Chargers.
Yes, we
Tua
did.
was very good. Tyreek was very good. And a lot of other crazy things happened in the NFL. Lions took down the Chiefs. A lot to talk about.
Aaron Rodgers got hurt in the second play.
Oh.
Man, that
Prayers
Yeah.
up. Hopefully
Torn
he's doing all
Achilles.
right, man.
and I hope that's not the end of his career. I mean,
I know.
people are
Yeah.
not talking about that enough.
Right.
That this could be it. We'll see.
Yeah,
But-
he's about to be 40 years old, so that'll be something we talk about for
Things to
sure.
consider there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt.
But let's all talk about our favorite storyline from this week. Something that you want to bring up that we can have a little discussion about here, because a lot of things did happen week 1. Again, it's early. Maybe we've thrown out some crazy predictions, but start with you, David, as always.
Yeah.
What you got for
Kick
me?
it off.
Yeah, so, I mean, my storyline, we kind of already discussed it. I mean, the Miami Dolphins, right? I'm a Dolphins guy. Always have been. And, man, I just have this thought of how far could this team go with Tua healthy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I saw. I mean, this reminded me, we saw it last year with the Ravens. If you guys remember that game, Tua threw for 6 touchdowns. It kind of was reminiscent of that game this year. And there were so many questions of, is Tua going to be back? Is he going to be actually healthy and ready to play? And he looked phenomenal. I will say our defense did not look phenomenal, but we got time with that, and the off season was great to us with Jalen Ramsey being a Dolphin, and hopefully,
He'll be back soon.
Right. November, December is what we're thinking.
Still.
So it'll be a while.
But still.
If he comes back and we're, still in the playoff hunt, I think that'll be what maybe we need to get over the edge and maybe scare some teams. But really, I mean, the storyline is I'm excited to watch this team. I think everybody is. I don't think it's just me as a Dolphins fan, right? That, I mean, we can make some noise this year, and as a fan, I've always been, okay, let's just make the playoffs because we usually don't do that. But this year, it's like, let's win a game. Like, let's see what happens,
Shake
and
it
so
up.
I do think the Bills are going to be tough to hang with, and our division is incredibly hard. Even with, I mean, the Jets won that game without Aaron Rodgers after the 4th snap, and he goes down. The Jets still beat the Bills, so you can't count the Jets out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The AFC East as a whole, I think it's going to be a blast, and especially the Dolphins. So that's my storyline for sure.
And, I mean, the entire AFC is just loaded.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, I think a lot of people are excited about the Dolphins, but, I mean, the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs, there's just so many.
3 teams that just lost last week.
Yeah,
That's right.
Chargers, but these are playoff caliber
Bills.
teams. Just those guys
Yeah,
are
you're
all
right.
loaded,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and they're all likely going to be in the hunt.
Yep.
So,
That's right.
and even the Jags too.
Yeah, no reason to overreact after 1 week.
No.
I agree.
Right.
I wrote a couple storylines just in case there was some crossover, and there was immediately
Okay.
because I think here's what I wrote word for word: Dolphins, if they stay healthy, no one can score with them, and they're gonna win the AFC East. So I'm with you
Awesome.
there. If Tua
Awesome.
stays healthy,
Yeah.
I actually do. The
Yeah.
Bills did not look great last night. I know there was weather induced.
Yeah, they did.
It's week 1, but the Dolphins have been able to play with the Bills the last couple of years, and a full Tua healthy looking thing here.
Man.
I actually do like
Yeah.
the Dolphins' odds to come out of that really good division.
Yeah.
All right, Harper, what you got for us, man?
So I'm going to continue the trend here. I'm going to talk about my team, the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to talk about a certain individual. Talk about Derek Carr. So
All right.
this past free agency, he moved from the Raiders all the way to the Saints. So there's a couple different reasons I like Derek Carr. He's a man of faith, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Him and his family have done a lot of cool things to spread the gospel through the sport of football, through different types of media and all that. So I think that obviously sparks my interest. Second, I think he is an absolute great leader on the field and off the field. Like his locker room presence, like I think it's very underrated because you think about the Raiders. How many years was he on the Raiders? Like 7, 8 years?
Yeah.
Long time.
I mean, that organization had so many things thrown at it, and Derek Carr kept them afloat as best he could. I mean, he gave them a fighting chance every week, and I think that went overlooked. I think people overlooked how much he put into that organization. And so with the Saints, him coming to New Orleans, we got a good roster. We should win the NFC South. I think with the young teams and the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Panthers, that we should have the best roster on paper. We should win the division. But I'm really excited to see him come in and be that leader on the team. Sean Payton left a couple years back. Drew Brees retired. We're still looking for that guy to lead the organization. I think Derek Carr can be that.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I think the NFC South and the AFC South are again pretty obviously the worst divisions in football.
no doubt.
And it's an open door there for the Saints to walk through and potentially win that division and maybe make some noise in the playoffs. I'm not sold on Derek Carr quite yet, but I think they have a good receiving core if Michael Thomas stays healthy.
Yep.
You got Olave, Rashid Shaheed. That man had a good day.
Oh, yep.
So, hey, they need to score some more points. The defense has always been there. We'll
Defense
see.
is there. We're a defense team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would kind of pair Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers kind of in a similar place, coming from a team that the fit had just kind of wore out, with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and Derek Carr and the Raiders. And so I was so excited to see how both those quarterbacks would do in a different setting where it's their team, right? Kind of, in that essence. And man, I hate that Aaron went down, but I think Derek Carr is going to be a great storyline to watch this year, and I think the Saints will be a better team because he's at the quarterback there. So how good, I don't know, but I think that division, like we said, is wide open, and I think the Saints should be the one to take it.
And I just want to say one more thing. I think there's been some comparisons with him and Drew Brees. Drew Brees came to the Saints from the Chargers later in his career after an injury. Derek Carr is coming to the Saints a little bit later in his career, not after an injury. And I'm not trying to compare him to Drew Brees, but I'm saying I think it could be a really good revival for his career. I don't think it's fair to put him next to Drew Brees because Drew Brees, arguably a top 5 QB of all time. I'll have the argument with you. But Derek Carr, I think this is going to be huge for his career, huge for his legacy in the NFL.
Okay, cool.
So
fun to follow.
Well, I guess a couple storylines. I feel like there were some letdowns this week, and there were some really eye openers. So, I mean, really quickly, just kind of list off. I thought letdowns: Bengals losing by a lot to the Browns. The Bills, I thought that was a letdown to lose to the Jets after Rodgers goes out. The Seahawks, a clear letdown to lose to the Rams at home with all the excitement coming into this season. And I also thought the Broncos losing kind of in a boring one to the Raiders at home. I think the Broncos, we thought maybe we're going to take the next step with Sean Payton coming in. Russell's going to figure things out, and they just, again, non-existent offensively. So letdowns there. But I think my main storyline is I think there are some dark horses that showed themselves this week. I think there's always those NFL or those favorites at the top that were like those should probably be staples for Super Bowl contenders. Right. But I think there's some teams that either haven't made the playoffs recently or have made the playoffs but they can't win playoff games. That I think there's 3 teams that come to my mind right now that could be some dark horses. First is the Dallas Cowboys, and that might sound a little weird as a dark horse because they've been there before, but they haven't really been able to make that jump.
There's this hump they can't get over.
Right. Yeah. And I think the defense they have right now, they could do that. I think Dak's going to be good this year. I think Pollard's really good.
Receiving core is great.
Receiving core is good. They got Brandon Cooks to add to that arsenal.
Trey Lance back up.
Did they beat the Giants 40-0?
40-0.
That is correct.
Did I see that right? No. Yeah. 40-0. Crazy. Next is the New York Jets. I know Rodgers is out, but watch out. Right. They just beat the Bills without him.
Absolutely.
On week 1, their defense stifled Josh Allen, turned him over 4 times. Their defense is going to keep them in every game. If they can figure out a game plan for Zach Wilson or if a different quarterback comes in, we'll see what happens to New York. I still think they're going to be able to be a dark horse to get into the playoffs and maybe make some weird things happen. And then finally, the Detroit Lions. I think that's kind of become a common thing and a popular thing to think about after they beating the Chiefs and ending the year the way they did last year. They looked good. They've got that grit. They've got that Dan Campbell spirit. I know Braden's going to enjoy hearing this, and I think he's feeling the vibes. I think Detroit's really feeling it for the first time. They're selling out their stadiums.
Yep. Dan's doing something special there.
Yeah.
Something different's happening in Motor City. So I just watch out for the Lions. They just they don't make too many mistakes. They just stick around, and they've got a pretty good-looking team right now.
Yeah, I like the Lions because – it's weird. I'm going to bring up an NBA team here, but kind of they remind me of the Phoenix Suns. Remember, if you guys remember, I don't know how many diehard NBA fans we got here, but in the bubble of the Phoenix Suns, where they went 8-0. They missed the playoffs, barely, but the next year they went to the NBA Finals. I think here's what I'll say. I'm not going to go that far.
What are you insinuating?
But here's what I'm going to say is the Lions – beating the Packers in that game meant more than people thought. That game was not meaningless for them. That proved that they can do it. And they brought that same energy to Kansas City, took down the Chiefs, and I think this team is sneaky good. And people should know now, they're not even sneaky anymore. They're just good.
Right.
And so I think they get to the playoffs, and I think they win a playoff game this year.
I agree.
You're talking about revitalizing their career. Jared Goff has been awesome in Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was still on the Rams, things just kind of – it didn't look like the right fit near the end of his tenure with the Rams, and something's just clicking in Detroit.
It's cool.
Yep.
They're fun to watch. they've actually now got some guys, even for fantasy football purposes, they've got some guys you want to watch every week.
Yep.
Their offense is fun to watch. They added Jahmyr Gibbs. They're exciting, and they play really good defense. So I actually like that. I didn't know where you're going with the NBA, but that's pretty similar.
I do like that too.
Could happen. Alrighty, well, that's a whole lot of sports to throw at you right off the bat. But hey, we've been waiting for 5 months. We had to go crazy for you.
Up to date.
So hey, let us know
Vols.
what you think of our predictions, our early headlines as college football and the NFL has finally gotten kicked off. Fired up to be back with football rolling. But let's get into our next segment, and we're just going to talk about really the plan for the future with this podcast, the exciting things to come, and then we're going to kind of talk to you about, I guess, our mission and goal in this next year. We got a word, and that word is unashamed. You want to start us off, kind of the meaning behind unashamed?
Yeah, I mean, really, so it kind of goes back to every year there's a word that I feel like is put on my heart just to, kind of just be a staple of that year. And last year was intentional. I was just trying to be intentional with everything and, do it for a greater reason than myself, right? And realize the moment and, take what God is calling me to do and go and do it. And this year is pretty similar. It's unashamed. And that, and that means is not being afraid to share the gospel with anybody at any time. I think it can be very, you hear that and we can make it so much more complicated than it is. It's just my goal, my desire, and our desire, as we've talked as a group, is to go be unashamed of the gospel. Go share the love of Jesus Christ to those around us, to our friends, to families, to everybody that we interact with. And I think it's an important note to not shove it down anybody's throat, but also we don't want to lay back either and be complacent, because the gospel has changed all three of our lives, and we know it can change many more. And so our desire with this podcast and with this platform and in our group is to share that good news to those who haven't heard it, haven't seen it, and haven't maybe felt it in their life, that they have purpose and that God can use anyone for anything. And so that's really that.
Yeah, I feel like God is going to give everybody a chance at some point in their life, whether they grow up in a different religion or not, but he's going to give them an opportunity, or he's going to give somebody else an opportunity to witness to them at some point in their life, that to potentially save them and bring them to heaven.
Yeah.
To live eternal life in heaven.
Yeah.
Well, God makes himself known internally and externally, through the world, through our conscience, through right and wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere you look in this world, it traces back to God.
He's placed eternity on our hearts.
That's right.
So why would we not be absolutely unashamed about spreading his word to people that maybe we don't even understand that they needed to hear something?
Yeah.
Maybe we sense that they've never heard it before, and we can be those people. What a privilege. So this year, as a group, as a team, we're growing pretty quickly with a lot of people that are coming in and helping out. That's going to be the mission, to be ready to step up in those moments when God says, hey, it's go time. What are you going to do right now to witness to this person and to let them know the good news? So it's exciting. We're going to get into that a little bit more, but let's talk about a couple things. I mean, this summer we had a lot of plans, and we accomplished a lot. We brought on some new team members. We have some new editors. We have some new people that are going to shoot us some content. We have some new content idea people that are going to help us put together some new content outside of the podcast. So thank you to everybody that follows us on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, obviously. You see our clips. A lot of them are in this very room. Some really cool clips from these episodes. But we're also going to have clips from outside of this room that are going to kind of build the brand in a little different way, and it's going to be more than just the podcast, and it's going to be some cool opportunities.
That's right.
Yeah, it's one of them. It is going to be called Sean in the Street. We're really excited for it. We'll see when that debuts. It's going to be soon. Our buddy Sean Frazier, he is just something else. He is absolutely unashamed to spread the word and speak on it with random strangers. And he's going to go in the street. A lot of it might be out here on the campus of Grand Canyon talking to students. It may be out literally on the street. We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but he's going to press into people, be really gentle with them, and just have cool conversations that I think people are going to really enjoy and learn from.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna have some other stuff up our sleeve that we're excited for you guys to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of it, we want to make sure first that, we've been praying on it, and every move that we've been trying to make is intentional and with the purpose of how can this podcast extend bigger than just this space? You know what I mean? How can we impact other people? And so really it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be new. And I think for all of us, whatever that looks like. But the cool thing is we came into this space about a year ago being uncomfortable, being, God, I don't know what's going to happen here. Episode 1, we put these headsets on. We barely know how to work the mics. We're like, okay, it has to be God, right? Like we can't. We've exhausted our human capability. Like we don't know what's going to happen, right? I mean, we were in uncharted territory, all of us, and man, it's been amazing what God has done. And each individual episode, and you look over the course of the year, it's amazing the millions of people who have seen our stuff. It's nothing that we've done. It's all been by His grace. And so
praise God.
We realize that, we know that, and we want to make sure that every move that we make is in His will, because ultimately He's the one running it all. And we can have so much confidence because of what has happened over the past episodes and the past year, that moving forward, why can we not expect a similar thing? Whether it's just impact we'll make one-on-one in people's lives. Maybe it's not even the view count. The view count, I mean, it's great and all, but really we're looking for more than a view count. We're looking for impact, and significance, that this, God is able to move through this space. And so it's been an absolute blessing, and we're really excited to see what God does in this next year, and of us being unashamed.
Absolutely. And one of the cool things that I often look back and think about is just the conversations we were having before we started this whole thing.
Yeah.
And we said, if we did this, hypothetically, for the rest of our lives, and it impacted one person, if it had some impact on a person to open their Bible, to go to church, to ask those conversations that we're all thinking deep inside, then it's more than worth it.
Yeah.
So,
Amen.
Yeah, and we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the praise reports. Even if we had maybe a small impact or made you think in a certain way, or made you talk to that person you hadn't talked to in a while, made you pray for that one thing that you needed to pray about, we appreciate that, and please keep them coming. It helps us, it energizes us, and it allows us to keep remembering how good our God is. So yeah, keep sending us that our way. A couple other things that we also want you praying for us. There's a lot of unknown territory that we are about to go into. We're about to take, you could say, the next step. We're about to try to find ways to, show off the Lord in different ways. One is going to be merch. We are going to have merch coming at some point soon. That's going to be a whole new venture. There's some stresses that are involved with that. There's some crazy things we have to jump through. But eventually there's going to be people that can, viewers, anybody that wants a shirt, they're going to be feeling good, they're going to be looking good, and they're going to have John 3:16 on the back. That's all I'll say. You may have seen them in past episodes, but we got a lot coming in the future, and if it's going to happen, it's going to be because God wants it to. So we just ask that prayers continue to come our way.
Well said.
Absolutely.
All right. With that being said, let's talk about this thought process of being unashamed, because I think we could just get into that even more as we got another 15 minutes of good content here coming in this first episode back. I really just feel like as a group we're gonna continue to find ways to witness to new people. I know you've had some cool stories of people literally on campus coming up to you and saying, "Hey, Super Bowl podcast." Like, that blows my mind, and it actually blows my mind.
In the gym, in Panda Express, whatever it may be. So
yeah. I mean, so in those moments, through all of this, that leads us to have a conversation with somebody.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that's what excites me for this year, is just being, yes, I know last year was your word of intentional, but like, that allows us to be intentional. If somebody can come up to us and God urges them to say, "Hey, I've watched your podcast," now we can have a conversation, and who knows what that can do.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. The podcast is certainly an outlet that is being used, and it's all glory goes to Him, right? We're just trying to be obedient, and that's a big thing with being unashamed, right? Is if we're going to be unashamed, let's do it for the right reasons, because people can be unashamed about a lot of things. And so that word necessarily, when you hear that, it could be about anything. It could be about my sports team, the Finns, which I am unashamed about, but in a different context. But, really, I think when you look at the word unashamed and what we're trying to accomplish, it starts with loving unashamed, like loving those around us unashamed. And it's one thing for us to get on the show and tell people about the gospel. It's another thing to show people the gospel through our lives, through our walk with the Lord, for going out of our way and doing what we're called to do. If that's maybe inconvenient for us, who cares? Like that's kind of the mindset that I've embraced, because that's the mindset Christ embraced. It wasn't fun for him to get up on that cross at all, and it wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But it wasn't a whole other thing. It's like it wasn't the nails that was holding him up on that cross. It was his love for us is what was holding him up, because he was God. He could get down at any point in time. I truly believe that. But it was his love that held him up there. And so in that same way, how can we have that sacrificial love, that love where the Bible talks about the last will be first, serving, going out of our way and being unashamed to be like, hey, I want to help you. How can I help you? How can I pray for you? Having these conversations that in today's age, they don't happen much anymore. They really don't. And so I think it's time that we as the church, that we as a community revitalize what truly living for Christ is.
And we heard this at church this last week, that at some point, every believer at one point heard, I don't know if this is what was said at church, and I did believe it at the moment, and maybe there are some other instances where people literally just hear God directly.
Sure.
But at some point, almost every believer heard about God from somebody else.
Yeah.
And that one hit me, because that's discipleship. That's
no doubt.
That's witnessing to people.
That's right.
And if every person that is a believer now heard it from somebody else, that means that somebody else out there needs to hear it from somebody. So why not us is kind of my thought for this for the rest of my life. That's what I want to do. But especially as we look ahead and being unashamed, that's the reasoning behind it for me. Somebody needs to hear it, and then God's going to do the work. I'm going to plant the seed that God has given me the wisdom and the words to say in those moments, and then let God do the rest. And there's not going to be anything better than that.
No doubt. And to build off that thought, I really like where you're going there. So in John chapter 17, that's what we've been studying last couple of weeks at church. God sent his son to accomplish the gospel, but Jesus sent us into the world to spread his gospel. Mm-hmm. We're extensions of him. Just like you're saying, most people who've experienced the gospel, heard it from someone else, right? And so that's our responsibility. That is our mission, to pick up our cross and carry the gospel to all over the world. And I have an awesome piece of scripture here to go along with this. So this is Romans 10, verses 14 through 15. But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? And how will anyone go and tell them without being sent? Mm-hmm. That is why the scriptures say, how beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crazy thing about this is God didn't have to use us.
Mm-mm.
He didn't. I mean, he's God, right? He can go share the gospel. I mean, he could, like he did with Moses, right? Burning bush. He can go speak to anybody directly if he so chooses. But he chooses to live inside of us through his Holy Spirit and be able to use us as vessels, as his hands and feet, to go out and share the good news. And so we get to partner with the God of the universe to share the news that changed our lives and that changed everything about us. What a blessing that is. And so with that, I mean, how could we not be unashamed of that? Because we've seen the changes in us. And not in a prideful way at all, because we didn't do anything. We were just the ones who said, okay, God, I've messed up so many times and I needed you. And I need you now. And I know I can't do it alone. And then he did the work inside of us. And so if he did that in me, he can do that to anybody. I know that because I've seen that in my life. And so who would I be not to go out and share that cure to death? I mean, there's nothing bigger than that.
He defeated death.
Yeah.
He gave us a new and better way of life, and we would be selfish to keep that to ourselves.
Yeah.
It is our responsibility to share that with the world. And so what does unashamed look like? Doing whatever you do or say, do as a representative of the Lord.
Yeah.
Colossians 3, verse 17.
Come on.
Whatever you do or say, do it as a representative of Christ.
Yeah.
And so that can be as simple as how you interact with people in a certain establishment, how you talk to people, how you treat people who are homeless, who appear homeless. All these simple things, they matter because people are always watching. And we were talking about this earlier. You never know the impact you can have on someone. A certain word, a certain interaction. If we continually show love and respect for one another, I mean, God can just use the rest. God will do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and I would say to you, people at home watching this, if you do feel like God's putting on your heart, I challenge you to take that step.
Mm-hmm.
Be unashamed. Be super bold. Like there's nothing like we have. I think speaking for all of us, when we have taken the jump, when God said, "Take this step right here, do this, say this, talk to this person," I've never regretted it. I can tell you I've never regretted it, and not only that, but praise the Lord that I did that. Like that made an impact. That was a God thing. So I just want you at home to know that that's going to be the case for you. If you feel like God is truly telling you to do something that might seem crazy, do it. Do it. Trust me, just do it. But it does take that certain level of boldness, and obviously that's something that we love. Super bold, like that. This is kind of the idea behind this entire podcast. I've got a verse myself.
Let's hear it.
Philippians 1:14.
Mm-hmm.
Boldness is contagious. When we are bold for Christ, enduring hardships for our faith, others are provoked to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if we just are a little bit extra bold and we are sympathetic with them, we give them a testimony about our lives and kind of let them know that what God has done in our lives, it's contagious. People will feel provoked to do the same thing in return, and that's just going to make God smile up in heaven.
Oh.
And don't take our word for it. I mean, go to church, right? If you go to church on Sundays and worship, do you not feel that? Like the presence of the Lord, like just dwelling in his people. And isn't that contagious? Like that's, I mean, even people who don't go to church, it's amazing when they go. Most of them are like, that worship was really cool, or that music was awesome. Like from even a worldly sense, it's like, it's powerful. It's more than just the words. And I think even the world who comes in to the church can see that and know that. And so in Bible studies, like I know for at least our group, I mean, it's contagious. When when somebody shares a story of, hey, I felt called to give this guy, $5, whatever it is, right? I felt called by God to do something, and they did it, regardless of the outcome, or maybe we didn't even see what happened with the guy after, but that obedience makes me want to go out and do that for him.
No doubt.
And so the same goes for anybody, I believe, with that Holy Spirit inside of you, because he will stir you. He will use that. And man, we are the representatives of Christ. And so as a church, man, we can change the world. And like, I believe I'm talking to you watching right now. You can change the world. And we don't have to do it alone, and we aren't supposed to do it alone. Like, we can do this in community, and of course with the one who created everything. And we can go out and make a difference and do it in love. And my verse that I want to talk about was John 13:35. It says, "Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." And so if we're going to be different, let's be different in love. Let's go love unashamed. And I don't know what exactly that looks like in your life. And I don't know what it exactly looks like for mine. But I do know that when we have that opportunity to go out and go the extra mile, to tell somebody, hey, I'm praying for you, I'm thinking of you, to go serve, to not even just tell them, but to go and pray with them, to go serve in communities, to go help somebody, hold the door for somebody. Like, these little things go much further than we know, and God can use them in such incredible ways. And you never know when you can be used in something so much bigger than yourself. And I don't think we will know ever, fully until we get up there, right?
Man.
And so let's go. Let's be unashamed. And we're in the same boat as everybody watching. This is still new to us. We're learning, we're growing, we're going to make mistakes. But man, if our main goal is to serve the Lord, love God, and love people, what can go wrong?
Yeah. I think my last point today is it's a little weird, but bear with me here. Like,
Sure.
You think about like a disease, or like COVID, for example, how that put the whole world together. Like we were all on the same playing field there at that point,
right,
when COVID hit. You could say it was contagious, right?
Sure.
It was contagious.
Yeah.
This boldness, that's how we get this word across. This is how we get everything. This is how we get God to spread throughout the entire world, by being bold, because it's contagious. And then, yes, we may never know how far that string gets down the line. We may never know the dominoes that fall after our move, but continuously being bold is going to be contagious and is our best shot at turning this thing around in favor of the Lord. So that's just the way I look at it. And I know I hate to bring up COVID, but like it's like contagious thing there that can potentially be spread around the world in a good way. Right?
No, totally. And then you look at the world right now, the status of the world, the enemy is winning in a lot of areas. And we know each day that passes, he will only have more control over the world. And so the thing is, once we step out in faith, we're fighting against that current, right? And we may give someone encouragement and courage to go out there and do it themselves. And that's the domino effect, right? That's exactly what you're talking about. If we step out in faith, not only are we going to grow and become better disciples, but we may spark a thought or a question in someone else's brain. And that's how we win this world over. The gospel is the only thing that will stand true over time. We got to tell the world about it.
That's right. And just think about what one step of faith looks like, what it could lead to, right? For example, our group, we all got saved around the same time. And then that act and like the growth that we've had together, we've been able to go out and share with others. And then these others have been able to share with others. And then that's how you get kind of that contagious feeling, right? Of, we're all on the same team. We're in this together, and everybody's looking for something deeper. Mm-hmm. Everyone is. And so whether people acknowledge it or not, or look in the right areas or not, my life, I didn't for a long time. I didn't look in the right areas, but I was looking. Everybody's looking.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's our job to go be the workers. The workers are few and the harvest is plentiful. So there's a lot of people who are ready to hear the word and ready to be changed and ready to receive change. And so if they can't hear it, and if they don't hear it,
that's right,
then maybe they won't take that step. But if they have people in their life who are willing to share that, even when it's hard, even when it feels uncomfortable, that impact can go beyond our lifetimes, can change family trees, can change eternities. Like, come on, y'all. Like that's it.
Fire me up.
Yeah, like that's it.
This is life.
That's what
right
life is for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what matters. And so, and we can do that in all kinds of different ways. And everywhere in the world needs Jesus. And so let's go be his hands and feet wherever we are called to be.
Love it.
Amen.
All right. I think that wraps it up. I think that's our update to you. Like, this is where we're going. And a challenge to you is, think about it like church. Right? When you go to church and maybe you just forget about what you learned and you just live through the world Monday through Saturday. Take it the same way here. Like, if you're going to watch this podcast, we not only challenge you, but we would really love it for you to live along the same way we are and start thinking of these things that we're talking about if you haven't already. And go be bold, go out and make a change, because we need a little bit of contagious going around in a good way right now. So that's our update to you guys. We love you guys, and we're really excited for this next season of the Super Bowl podcast, both on the sports side, both on the faith side. We got some really cool guests coming your way. We got some really cool episodes coming your way. We have some new content that we just touched the surface with. So stay with us. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a ride. We love you guys. Peace out.